Complete. The nav unit on this old 2013 Lexus RX350 is fully updated for CarPlay, Android Auto, and a number of other apps. You can install Spotify and use them easily. Navigating apps is easy with the OEM mouse joystick, and going into reverse, the backup camera still works. I can also toggle back to the OEM menu by holding the menu button, and then now I'm back at the OEM menu and can use radio and my typical standard functions. Installation did take a few hours, but it's well worth it. I do recommend this particular unit. Check out the link below to purchase everything needed to update your Lexus RX350 nav unit. Also below is a code to get a really good discount. I hope this helps you with your project. I'm in a 2013 Lexus RX350. The infotainment system is very dated, so we're going to update this to use CarPlay and Android Auto. Follow along if you want to see how this is done. In order to update the system, we're not going to replace the screen, but we are going to replace the computer that goes along with the screen. We'll still be able to use the original OEM features, but this will allow us to use the modern apps as well, along with a Bluetooth connection. This was from Carlinklife, new computer, and comes with a whole lot of cables as well. For this job, you'll need some panel remover tools, link below to get your own. We'll eventually need a screwdriver, and other than that, we need our directions provided by the supplier. We have to gain access to all the cables for the OEM unit. In order to do so, all this has to come apart. It's mostly just snaps. So I'm going to use a panel remover tool and pry this area up. At some point you can use your hand to release this top cover. Also pull or pry in this area. The knob has to be removed, so rotate this counterclockwise. Shift knob removed. And now pull this up. So now we have a lot of cables exposed. Go ahead and pull off these connectors. Most of these connectors you're going to need to pinch and pull. There's quite a few of them down here. With the panel remover tool, pull this guy off. The center console unit can now be set aside. Remove this panel by pulling at it. A few 10mm bolts must now be removed, so we're going to use a socket set. The first bolt is in this area here. And looking through this hole, you can actually see two bolts. One is more in this direction, the other is up in this direction. We're going to start with this guy. I'm using a magnetic socket so that I don't lose this bolt once it's removed. Be careful not to drop this bolt in the center console somewhere. That's easily done. And now remove the second bolt in the same opening. In order to give myself some more room to work here, I'm going to remove these electrical connectors. Pinch and pull these out. In this opening up here, there are two bolts. One's in a really weird orientation. It's difficult to see, but I'm going to remove that one now. The second bolt on the driver's side is also kind of hidden and in a bit of a different orientation. All four bolts holding the stereo are now removed. Now we want to shift this to get it out of the way. In order to do that, push this button here. That'll release the shifter knob. The emergency brake is activated. You want to make sure you do that so that when you shift out of park, your vehicle doesn't roll away. And then I can release my button here. This is now out of the way. I'm going to cover that with a towel so that I don't damage anything later on. And now I can pull out the stereo. And you can now see the back side of the stereo. It's a little intimidating seeing all these wires. This is our box of new cables. This is the main harness, and then some of the peripheral cables. This looks to be like a Bluetooth antenna. So to begin connecting our new cables, let's remove the original. Pinch and pull to remove these connectors. This one's a little bit different. I'm going to use a panel remover tool, pry up this little clip, and that allows me to remove this connector and pinch and pull for all these connectors. These connectors are color and or shape coded, so don't worry about mixing them up later. It's not really an issue. This part still looks intimidating, but it's really not that bad. All my original cables are removed. I need to now install my new harnesses. Really, it's a matter of just finding the one that fits the back of the OEM stereo, plugging those connectors in, and then the opposite end of the cable just connects to the original plug from the vehicle, like so. So that was my main connection. I need to do the same for the rest of the plugs. For example, my new harness has this plug. It fits into this area, this port, so I'm just gonna plug it in. And then the opposite end of this new harness receives the original plug from the vehicle, so I'll find one that fits. I think this is it. There we go. And from here, the original connectors can be plugged back into their appropriate connector on the original stereo. Blue goes with blue, and then from here, just find the corresponding connector that fits. On our new wiring harness, all the short cables are now connected to the back end of the stereo. The longer cables now have to connect elsewhere. This bigger connector connects to our new computer, so that's the only plug that fits this connector. Plug that in, and then these connect to new cables. Just match blue with blue. New purple cable to the purple port. By the way, all this will have to be likely rerouted a little bit later, especially this bigger cable. This cable has to go down to wherever this is going to ultimately live. But I just want to put things together and try it out before I go place it in the permanent location. This is the Bluetooth antenna. Plug that into your new computer here. These new cables, it's a lot of peripheral cables, maybe not all of them needed. Plug into the computer here. So I did have to refer to the directions over here. This part's important, whether or not you have a touchpad on your vehicle or a mouse joystick. I have in my 2013 Lexus a mouse joystick configuration. So I'm going to use the cable harness here provided by my vendor and connect that down to this cable here, which goes to my little mouse joystick. So connect this plug here, and then the opposite end of this longer cable, part of one of the new harnesses, it's labeled Media Can Mouse, plugs into Media Can Mouse on the back of the stereo. This will be routed a little bit better later, but we'll plug it in for initial testing purposes. The directions also indicate that this cable, Media Can, is not to be plugged into anything for my particular vehicle. Do not plug. I do in fact have to remove this screen to attach some of these connectors right here, purple and blue. So to do that, use your panel remover tool, and we're going to remove this plastic. Just pry it off. There we go. With a Phillips head screwdriver, you remove 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, to pull out this screen. And now the screen comes out. On the back of this screen, you'll want to pull this blue connector out. These blue and purple connectors terminate in blue connectors on this end. These both go up to the screen area. One of them plugs into the back of the screen, and then the other plugs into the original OEM connector. We should have all of our connections complete now. Without putting everything back together entirely, we can just get everything to an orientation that we can test this all out. Doing my best not to break anything, I turned on the vehicle and can see that the infotainment system is working. I can move around the mouse and control what's going on here. So we can work at rerouting the cables and making this thing fully functional. With everything proven to work, we just have to reroute our cables and reassemble. So these cables all need to be routed back behind the panels here and the brackets. I think I'm going to put this computer down in this area. There's plenty of room even when the center console is fully reassembled, so it's going to sit down in here. Alternatively, you could try to pack it in this area underneath the glove box panel, but that would require further disassembly of the glove box. So let's unplug a few cables and reroute. So here's the new cable routing. The computer is here. Hopefully that does not interfere with my center console, especially this area. The cables from the stereo and the screen are routed back through the right side here, beneath some mounting brackets, all the way down to here. The Bluetooth antenna can sit right here. There's some adhesive you can peel and remove and stick that maybe to the side of this panel, or I'm just going to leave it here. But I think this might work as long as we can fit the center console back. Let's give it a shot. After some reassembly, everything can in fact fit back together without any issue. So we're going to go ahead and put in our screws and bolts and covers properly again, and we should be completely up and running. When you have this OEM view, all you need to do is press and hold menu button, and then you can switch over to the Android Auto display. Although for this to work, you need to have the Bluetooth of your phone connected to the new Bluetooth module of the system. This also prompts your system to connect via Wi-Fi, and then you get the Android Auto display. Or in the case of Apple, you're using the typical Apple navigation system. And one more thing, in order for the audio to work, you need to have your mode set to auxiliary so that you're outputting the audio from your new module. Bolts are reassembled as well as most panels. This last panel we gotta pop in. It locks in with the clips. If you break any clips, link below for purchase of new clips. Thread back on your shifter knob. And finally, installation is fully